Hi everyone. Tonight, we arrive at a place you can smell before you ever see it: wet soil, wood smoke, and stale ale drifting through the air. You stand on a rutted road as the last light drains from the sky. Your boots ache, your shoulders are tight, and your breath forms a faint mist in the cooling evening. Ahead, a low structure huddles beside the road, its windows glowing like weary eyes. This is a medieval inn. Planned or not, this is where you will sleep tonight. You may picture inns as comfortable shelters, warm fires, decent beds, perhaps a friendly hand offering a drink. Some of that is true. But you will also encounter constant noise, unavoidable odors, and a closeness with strangers that modern life has taught you to resist. Personal space will not survive the night. Still, you are here, and the road behind you has already dissolved into darkness. Before settling in, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, only if you truly enjoy this content. As always, let me know where you are listening from and what time it is for you right now. Someone is hearing this in daylight. Someone else is already drifting toward sleep. Both of you are welcome. Now, lower the lights and take a slow breath as you move closer. The inn sits slightly below the level of the road, on purpose. Rainwater drains away from it. That detail is intentional. Medieval builders understood how to stay dry, even if comfort ranked much lower. Historians agree that most roadside inns were placed along trade routes, not for appearance, but for necessity. Travelers brought income, and income meant survival. You pause outside. From within comes a steady roar, laughter rising and falling, wood striking something solid, a poorly sung tune quickly shouted down. There is energy inside. Possibly too much for someone hoping only to rest. The door is thick, scarred with old marks, darkened by countless hands pushing it open. You brace yourself and step in. Warmth reaches you first, uneven and smoky. Then the smell, sweat, damp cloaks, and overcooked meat lingering in the air. The floor is packed earth, perhaps covered with rushes if fortune favors you. These were meant to manage moisture and dirt, though historians still debate whether they helped at all or simply held odors longer. Your eyes adjust slowly. Firelight dances across rough beams overhead. The space is larger than it appeared outside, but only because everything is shared. Long tables with benches are crowded with bodies pressed close together. No one looks up right away. You are not remarkable, just another exhausted presence adding warmth to the room. This is your first lesson of the medieval inn. It is not designed for privacy. It is built for movement. People arrive and leave constantly. News travels faster than drink. Merchants exchange rumors as readily as goods. Pilgrims whisper prayers into their cups. Locals watch quietly, deciding whether you belong or pose a problem. You adjust the pack on your shoulder. It feels heavier now that you have stopped. The road kept you alert all day, upright and focused. Now your body remembers it can rest. That realization is risky. Sleep will be difficult, but fatigue is already pulling at you. A basic historical fact comes to mind. In much of medieval Europe, inns were not standardized. There were no guarantees of cleanliness, quality, or safety. Each stop was a risk. Some travelers chose routes not by distance, but by which inns were known to have fewer lice. That information spread by word of mouth, not signs. You glance toward the fire. A man is already asleep, head on the table, mouth open, unaffected by the noise. It is either admirable or concerning, you are not sure which. Nearby, a small detail stands out. A bundle of dried herbs hangs near the hearth, darkened by smoke. Some believed they cleaned the air. Others thought they kept sickness or spirits away. Historians still debate whether innkeepers used them out of belief, comfort, or decoration. Regardless, they remain quiet witnesses to countless nights like this. You step farther inside and let the door close behind you. The sound of the road vanishes at once. That is the finality of it. You are committed now. Turning back would mean sleeping outdoors, which is colder, quieter, and far more dangerous. The fire crackles. Sparks rise and fade. Laughter erupts again, louder, spreading through the room like ripples across water. You feel it in your chest. This is more than a place to sleep. It is a living system, breathing heat, noise, and shared exhaustion. You realize, with mild surprise, that time behaves differently here. Night is not about silence or darkness. It is about compression, too many lives packed too closely, all trying to rest at once. You linger just inside the doorway for a moment longer, swaying slightly. Morning will arrive whether you sleep or not. For now, this inn is your entire world. Somewhere in this loud, smoky space, your place for the night waits. You move deeper into the room, the door closing fully behind you. Only then do you notice how sharply the sound has changed. Outside, the night was open and wide. Inside, noise folds in on itself. Voices overlap. Laughter cuts off mid-thought. A cup scrapes across wood. Near the fire, fat drips and hisses. You are no longer observing. You are part of it now. The light is worse, or perhaps better, than expected. It is warm, but constantly flickering. Shadows slide along walls and ceilings, giving the space an uneasy sense of motion. Faces appear and vanish as people lean forward, then back. No one watches you for long. Extended attention would be rude, or worse, suspicious. Crossing into a medieval inn was more than entering a building. It was a social signal. Historians widely agree that once inside, you were expected to engage at least slightly. Sitting alone in silence suggested danger or illness. Neither was welcome. So you keep moving, looking for a spot where you can blend in rather than stand out. Your boots leave faint impressions in the dirt floor. The ground is uneven, shaped by generations of footsteps. Some areas feel worn smooth. Others are soft and damp. Wooden floors were rare in main rooms. Wood was costly, dirt was simple to maintain. Smooth it out, scatter fresh rushes if possible, and move on. As you pass the tables, the smell grows stronger. Ale is everywhere. Not the clean, sharp scent you might expect, but something both sour and sweet. This was typical. Medieval ale spoiled quickly and was usually consumed within a few days. In many towns, it was actually safer than drinking water, a well-established historical fact that still surprises people today. You wrinkle your nose briefly, then let it go. Complaining would change nothing. Someone brushes your elbow. There is no apology, only a brief look and a nod. That exchange is enough. Space here is managed through movement, not words. You adjust your pack again, pulling it closer to your body. Theft was not inevitable in inns, but it was always a possibility. Historians still debate whether inns were truly safer than sleeping outside, or whether they simply gathered risks into one enclosed place. Near one wall, a long bench sits beneath a narrow window. The glass is thick and uneven, likely imported at high cost. That detail reveals something important. This is not the poorest inn along the road. Someone invested in it. Someone believed travelers would pay even slightly more for added comfort. A minor historical note comes to mind. Some inns kept a bell by the door, rung whenever a guest entered, both to alert the innkeeper and to discourage theft by making arrivals noticeable. This inn has no bell. Either it was lost or no one cared enough to replace it. You suspect the second explanation. Eventually, you spot the innkeeper. Or rather, you recognize them by how they act. They are neither the loudest nor the most visible person, yet the room subtly organizes itself around them. A middle-aged figure stands near a small counter. Their hands are constantly moving. Coins are collected. Cups are filled. Brief words are exchanged. Everything is done quickly and efficiently. Reputation matters in places like this. An innkeeper who cheated openly would not last long. Travelers shared experiences. Locals remembered patterns. You wait. That too is a lesson. You wait your turn, leaning against a beam darkened by years of smoke. The wood feels warm beneath your hand. That warmth feels comforting, even if it is unintentional. Your shoulders loosen slightly. Your breathing steadies. While you wait, you listen. Fragments of stories pass by. A broken axle fixed just in time. A river crossing that went badly. A town ahead with unfamiliar customs. Inns served as information centers. Some historians argue they worked as informal news networks, spreading warnings and political shifts long before official messengers arrived. A sharp burst of laughter erupts behind you. You flinch before you can stop yourself. No one reacts. Either they do not notice, or they notice and choose not to care. That indifference is reassuring in its own way. Finally, the innkeeper looks at you. Not suspiciously. Not warmly. Simply assessing. You step forward, pack still on your shoulder, and meet their eyes. Crossing the threshold is complete. Whatever the road demanded from you today no longer applies. Inside, the rules are different. You will learn them quickly because you must. Your night has truly begun. You move toward one of the long tables. You do not sit immediately, hovering instead at the edge, like someone easing into cold water. The surface looks worn but smoothed by years of use. Countless elbows have polished it over time. You rest your fingers there briefly, tracing grooves and small cuts left by knives, cups, and restless hands. This table has held more secrets than most people ever will. The common room seems to breathe. The sound is layered rather than singular. A steady low murmur forms the base. Above it rise sharper noises. Laughter flares and fades. Someone coughs deeply. Benches scrape as people shift. Every sound overlaps, never settling into silence. You realize that true quiet here would feel unsettling, even dangerous. You finally sit. The bench is harder than you hoped, but softer than the ground. For tonight, that qualifies as comfort. Your knee touches the person beside you, and neither of you move. There is no space for embarrassment. Bodies settle where they can. You adjust your cloak, folding it beneath you so it does not drag through whatever has soaked into the floor. The fabric smells faintly of travel. Dust, sweat, old rain. It blends easily with the air. A cup appears in front of you without comment. You are unsure who placed it there. The liquid inside is dark, cloudy, and warm. It is ale, thick, filling, brewed nearby, and meant to be consumed quickly. In this period, people drank it daily, often from childhood, not only for enjoyment, but because it was safer than untreated water in many towns. You lift the cup and take a careful sip. The taste is sour at first, then oddly reassuring. Your stomach relaxes as if recognizing a familiar routine. Around you, conversations intertwine. A merchant across the table gestures with 2 fingers while describing a road damaged by last week's rain. A woman beside him listens intently, clearly calculating an alternate route. At the far end, someone recounts a close encounter with bandits, lowering their voice at key moments. Inns were places where information gathered naturally. Nothing was written down, but stories moved forward through memory. Many travelers plan their journeys based on what they heard in rooms like this. You notice how stories shift as they pass along the table. Details sharpen or fade depending on the listener. Threats grow slightly more severe. Distances stretch. This is not deliberate falsehood. It is adaptation. Attention is valuable here. A compelling story earns sympathy, protection, and sometimes an extra refill. A small detail catches your eye. Tied to a beam overhead hangs a worn horseshoe, blackened by smoke. Some believe it brings luck. Others say it marks the inn as honest, a quiet signal to those who know its meaning. There is no firm agreement, and historical records are unclear. Still, the horseshoe remains, untouched by debate, silently watching the room. You shift again, trying to find a position that will not leave your hips aching later. Your body carries a deep fatigue, the kind that settles into the bones. The bench is indifferent. So is the table. Furniture here is built for durability, not comfort. It must endure spills, boots, weight, and time. You are expected to do the same. The fire crackles louder for a moment as someone adds another log. Sparks rise briefly before disappearing into the dark rafters. Heat spreads unevenly, favoring those closest to the hearth while leaving others to pull their clothing tighter. You sit between those extremes, warm on one side and cool on the other. That imbalance keeps you alert. Food arrives next. It is placed in the center of the table, a thick stew heavy with grain and whatever meat was available. There are no individual bowls, only spoons, dipping and withdrawing in turn. You hesitate briefly, then join in. Shared food is expected. Refusing would feel awkward at best, insulting at worst. You scoop carefully, avoiding the center where spoons have stirred too often. The flavor is simple and filling. Salt, fetty, enough to quiet hunger without trying to impress. Meals like this were meant to sustain, not delight. Many travelers relied on inns for their main meal of the day, knowing the road offered little else. As you eat, warmth spreads through your chest, loosening muscles you did not realize were tense. Someone across the table starts to sing. Not well. Not terribly either. Just loudly enough to provoke groans and a few reluctant harmonies. The tune is familiar to several people, which surprises you. Songs traveled easily in a world without printed music, carried by voices from inn to inn. A melody learned here might appear weeks later in another town, altered but still recognizable. Your eyes begin to burn faintly. You blink and wipe them, dragging a trace of soot across your fingers. Chimneys did exist, but they were inefficient, and smoke often settled wherever it wished. People treated this as ordinary. Persistent coughing was widespread. Some medical writers of the period even connected smoky rooms to various illnesses, though they offered no real remedies. You lean back briefly, choosing to listen instead of watch. The soundscape changes almost imperceptibly as evening moves deeper. Conversations slow. Laughter grows heavier, less crisp. Cups are topped up less frequently. Tiredness arrives in gentle waves. This is the pattern of the common room, familiar and strangely calming. Yet tension remains, resting just beneath the surface. There are too many unfamiliar faces. Too many unclear motives. People keep a hand close to their belongings. Eyes glance sideways more often than straight ahead. Trust exists, but it is measured and short-lived. Some modern historians argue that violence in inns was rarer than popular images suggest, while others reference court documents that describe harsher realities. The truth likely falls somewhere between, shaped by place and circumstance. Your shoulders sink as the bench presses against your legs. You are no longer fully anchored in the room, drifting slightly inward. Weariness softens the edges of sound and light. You could sleep here, head resting on the table as many do, but the night still has plans for you. For now, you sit among strangers, warmed by fire and food, surrounded by noise that somehow reduces the feeling of isolation. Shared fatigue binds people together more effectively than kindness alone ever could. Outside, the road waits. Inside, the common room hums, holding you in its rough comfort. Your attention keeps returning to one figure who seems more rooted here than anyone else. Not the loudest voice, not the most imposing presence. Yet everything subtly shifts around them. When they move, space clears. When they speak, the room quiets slightly. This is the innkeeper. You observe them the way exhausted people do, without staring, taking in patterns rather than details. Their hands are constantly occupied, counting coins, wiping a cup that will never truly be clean, adjusting a pot near the fire. They seldom sit. Rest here is a privilege mainly for guests, and even then only partly. Innkeepers in the medieval world occupied an unusual social role. They were neither fully merchants, nor servants, nor hosts. Records from town courts and travel accounts indicate they were judged less on courtesy and more on reliability. Was the fire lit as promised? Did the food arrive? Did people wake up alive? That last question mattered more than it seems. You notice how the innkeeper's gaze moves. It does not linger on faces, but on hands, posture, how people enter, and where they set their belongings. Experience has taught them where trouble begins. Usually not with shouting, but with silences that stretch too long, or movements that disrupt the room's rhythm. Someone complains loudly about the ale, not its quality, but its cost. The innkeeper listens without interruption, head slightly inclined, expression unreadable. When they respond, it is short and calm. The complainer mutters, then drinks anyway. That exchange reveals much. Authority here is maintained not through threats, but through reputation. An innkeeper known for losing control would quickly lose customers. News traveled faster than roads. There is a common belief that inns were lawless places filled with unchecked disorder. The reality appears more complex. In many towns, innkeepers were legally accountable for events under their roof. Theft, fights, even suspicious deaths could lead to fines or worse. This encouraged a careful balance between tolerance and discipline. Too strict and travelers stayed away. Too lenient and authorities intervened. A small detail draws your attention. Near the counter rests a shallow bowl containing coins, some old, some nearly worn smooth. These are not tips, at least not exactly. In certain regions, guests were expected to contribute small amounts to cover breakage or shared losses. If a cup shattered or a bench cracked, the cost was distributed among many. It was an early form of shared responsibility, though no one would have named it as such. You wonder how long this innkeeper has stood here. Years, likely. Perhaps decades. Running an inn was often a family occupation, passed down over generations. Children grew up learning to judge strangers by the sound of their steps. They learned which knights arrived with merchants, which brought soldiers, and which arrived drunk and required attention. The innkeeper glances toward the door from time to time, even though it has not opened again. Habit. They are always tracking who is inside and who is not. In a world without written guest lists, memory carried the burden. Losing track of someone could lead to trouble later. You briefly meet their gaze. Just a moment of acknowledgement. Not a greeting. Exactly. But recognition. You are present. That is sufficient. A lesser-known detail surfaces in your thoughts. Some innkeepers maintained informal arrangements with local guards or watchmen. In exchange for information or small favors, assistance would come quickly if matters turned dangerous. Whether this practice was common or rare is uncertain. Surviving records suggest it, but never stated outright. Still, you imagine it now, quiet threads of cooperation holding the night together. The room shifts again as another group prepares to sleep. Benches scrape back. Cloaks are folded or more accurately, dropped. The innkeeper moves among them, guiding with gestures rather than words. A hand indicates a corner. A nod suggests where someone should settle. This is a routine refined over time. You observe how disagreements are managed. A firm look, a raised hand, a pause long enough for tempers to cool. Violence here would harm business. Everyone understands this, even those who pretend otherwise. The fire burns lower. Someone adjusts it. The innkeeper allows this, watching closely. Fire provides warmth and risk in equal measure. There are accounts of inns lost overnight to careless sparks. Some chroniclers describe entire travel routes altered after a trusted inn vanished in flames. Those losses were remembered for generations. Your own fatigue deepens as you take all this in. Understanding the innkeeper helps you relax. There is reassurance in knowing someone is paying attention. Someone is invested, at least enough to prevent complete disorder. You think about how many nights like this have passed through these walls. How many travelers have sat where you sit now, wondering whether to trust the shelter, the food, the people. The innkeeper remains, a steady presence in a shifting world. Later writers would debate whether innkeepers were generous caretakers or hardened opportunists. The truth likely depended on the night, the road, the weather, and the people involved. Tonight, this one keeps the fire burning, the noise controlled, and the doors shut. That is enough. You lean back against the bench, eyelids heavy, allowing the room to hold you a little longer. The innkeeper moves on, already handling the next small issue you cannot see. Eventually, watching is no longer sufficient. You need to claim your place for the night, whatever form that takes. You rise slowly, joints stiff, and walk toward the counter. The floor dips beneath your feet, worn smooth by years of the same uncertain steps. Many have stood where you stand now, considering the same question: how much rest can I afford? The innkeeper looks up before you speak. You sense they have noticed you for some time. Coins rest in your hand, warm from your palm. There is no written price displayed. Payment here is shaped by custom, reputation, and circumstance. A heavy purse makes its point without effort. A light one invites negotiation. You set the coins down carefully, one at a time, allowing the sound to be heard. The pace matters. Too fast suggests carelessness. Too slow suggests doubt. The innkeeper watches without appearing to count, fingers barely shifting. The response is a brief nod. That nod represents a full agreement. In many medieval areas, paying at an inn meant more than securing a place to sleep. It often covered a meal, a spot near the fire, and a level of protection. Legal records from the time indicate that once payment was taken, the innkeeper accepted partial responsibility for a guest's safety and belongings. Not complete responsibility, but enough to carry weight. This is why payment is made before sleeping, not afterward. Once you rest, you are fully under their roof. The innkeeper gestures toward the far side of the room. No explanation, just a direction. You follow the motion and see what is being offered. A place along the wall, slightly removed from the main tables. There is no bed or mattress, only a section of floor covered with straw that appears slightly cleaner than the rest. This is not meant as disrespect. It is the standard arrangement. You pause briefly, then accept. Refusing would require renegotiation, and renegotiation risks irritation. Irritation leads to memory. Memory matters here. A smaller coin slides across the counter. In return, you receive a blanket. Thick, coarse, and carrying the smell of smoke and aged wool. Blankets like this held real value. Many travelers carried their own for that reason. Tonight, you borrow one that has already warmed many others. As you turn away, another transaction catches your attention. A man places a larger stack of coins on the counter. The innkeeper reacts differently, lifting a finger and pointing toward a narrow stair at the back. A private chamber, or as private as one can expect here. This option exists, but only for those who can pay for it. Even then, privacy is limited. Walls are thin, locks unreliable, and silence uncertain. There is a common belief that medieval inns regularly offered private rooms. Surviving building plans and travel accounts suggest otherwise. Shared sleeping areas were far more typical, especially outside large towns. Separate rooms did exist, but they were few and costly. Most travelers accepted communal rest as part of the journey. You carry your blanket to the assigned spot. The straw crunches softly as you test it with your foot. Mostly dry. That matters. Wet straw is a misery best avoided. Some inns refreshed their straw often. Others waited too long. The smell tells you which category this place falls into. You breathe out, relieved. An effort has been made. A strange custom comes to mind. In some regions, travelers were expected to shake out their straw before settling in, partly to remove pests, partly as a sign of self-sufficiency. Whether this was widely practiced or simply recommended in manuals is unclear. Regardless, you nudge the straw lightly now, just in case. You place your pack against the wall and lower yourself carefully. The floor is cold through your clothes. Stone or packed earth offers no comfort. You spread the blanket over your legs and feel warmth gather quickly beneath it. Your body responds at once, ready to give in to rest. Nearby, others do the same. Someone murmurs a quiet prayer before lying down. Someone else releases a long, unguarded sigh. These small habits repeat night after night, unnoticed and unrecorded. The innkeeper passes again, stopping to adjust a lamp. The light dims slightly. This is intentional. Too much light keeps people awake. Too little invites trouble. Finding the right balance is part of the work. You realize something quietly important. Payment here is not only about money. It is about belonging, however briefly. Once paid, you are no longer a stranger lingering near the door. You are a guest. Temporary and replaceable, but recognized. Some travelers tried to sleep without paying, slipping into corners unnoticed. Court records suggest this was dangerous. If discovered, punishment ranged from expulsion to public penalty. Inns depended on trust, and they defended it firmly. Your attention follows the man who paid for the private chamber as he climbs the stairs slowly, one hand on the wall. You wonder whether his rest will truly be better than yours. Solitude has its own discomforts. The room settles again. The bargaining phase of the night is over. Everyone now knows their place, both physically and socially. The fire burns lower. Voices soften. You lie back fully for the first time, your spine meeting the ground. It is not comfortable, but it is rest. The road has trained your body to accept this. Payment has been made. The agreement is complete. What remains is to endure the night. The food arrives late. After payment, after arrangements have settled. This is deliberate. Hunger sharpens patience. A fed traveler is quieter, easier to manage, less likely to argue over warmth or space. You understand this without being told as the smell reaches you. Thick and grounding, cutting through smoke and sweat with authority. A pot is lifted from the hearth and placed near the table. Steam rises slowly, carrying the scent of grain and fat. There is no announcement. People notice individually, like animals sensing rain. You push yourself up, the blanket sliding from your legs, and join the slow movement toward the food. There are no plates, only bowls worn smooth by use, and spoons thinned at the edges. You take one without comment. The stew is served generously, but not excessively. The innkeeper controls portions with experience. Too much empties the pot early. Too little invites complaint. Balance is essential. Meals like this formed the foundation of travel. Many inns offered only one hot dish each evening, meant to satisfy rather than impress. Household records from the period suggest these stews relied on what was cheapest and most available. Barley, peas, onions, and scraps of meat. Flavor came more from salt than spice. You taste it now. Simple, heavy, and honest. You return to your place with the bowl, steam warming your face. The first bite spreads heat through your chest. You had not realized how cold you were until now. The food does more than fill your stomach. It signals safety, however brief. Eating indoors, among others, allows a pause in alertness. Around you, conversation resumes in quieter tones. Eating slows speech. People listen more. A merchant explains a delay at a river crossing, spoon held midair to mark his point. Someone nods while chewing. These exchanges matter. Information shared over food tends to last. A lesser-known custom appears here. In some inns, travelers were expected to bring their own utensils. This place provides them, but many did not. Forgetting a spoon meant eating with bread or fingers, which was common enough to raise no concern. Cleanliness was relative. Participation mattered more. You notice how carefully people protect their bowls. Not from greed, but from instinct. Food is valuable, even when shared. No one assumes it will last. There is an unspoken rhythm to the meal. Take pause, swallow, wait. This keeps the pot moving without drawing attention. Someone nearby complains quietly about the toughness of the meat. Another person shrugs. Meat was often old or preserved in ways modern tastes would reject. Still, it offered calories and warmth. For many, that was sufficient. Modern researchers continue to debate whether food was generally worse than meals prepared at home. Some argue it was inferior, stretched thin to increase profit. Others argue it was similar to what most people ate every day. Judging by the calm around you, the stew meets what everyone expects. As you eat, you sense the room shifting once more. The harshness fades. Even the fire feels calmer now, its crackle less insistent. You slow down on purpose, allowing the warmth to spread. Drowsiness draws nearer, helped by a full stomach and the low murmur of voices. One small detail stands out. A child appears briefly near the hearth, holding a small bowl. Too young to be a guest, yet too at ease to seem out of place, likely part of the innkeeper's family. Children raised in inns learned early how to move among strangers. They picked up languages in fragments and absorbed stories with ease. Some later became travelers. Others remained, eventually taking over the business. Your bowl empties faster than expected. You think about taking more, then decide not to. Taking excess draws attention. Restraint helps you blend in, and blending in offers safety. You place the bowl onto a stack near the counter. There is no washing. That may happen later, or not at all. Water is reserved for drinking, not cleaning. Smoke and heat serve as substitutes. Back at your place, you wrap the blanket around yourself again. Your body feels heavier now, limbs settling into the straw. The bench and floor seem less unwelcoming. The pain in your legs fades into something tolerable. Around you, the final moments of the meal unfold. Spoons tap quietly. Someone wipes their mouth on a sleeve. A short prayer is spoken. Another person stretches, joints cracking aloud. The food has served its purpose. This marks the turning point of the night. After this, there will be no important arrivals, no further bargaining, only endurance. Food in a medieval inn was not about enjoyment. It was about survival and connection. Sharing a meal bound strangers together briefly, reminding them of their shared humanity before sending them back to the road. You lean back fully now, eyes half closed, listening as the sound of bowls fades. The warmth in your stomach spreads outward, calming your thoughts. Sleep has not arrived, but it is closer than before. As bowls vanish and hands retreat into sleeves, you become more aware of those around you, not as noise, but as presence. Faces glow briefly in the firelight, then sink into shadow. Everyone appears softened, shaped by food and fatigue. This is when conversation shifts. Less trade, more reflection. You adjust your position, easing weight from one hip to the other. The stroll rustles softly. Someone nearby makes a small sound in response, not irritated, simply aware. Space here is managed through movement and sound rather than words. You quickly learn how to exist without drawing attention. A man across from you leans forward, elbows on his knees, and begins talking about a shrine he visited weeks earlier. His voice is calm and measured, carrying the practiced rhythm of a story told before. Others listen without interrupting. Pilgrims exchanged stories as much as prayers, and inns were where paths crossed. What you hear tonight may influence your route tomorrow. You notice how people introduce themselves, not with names, but with places, a town, a region, a river. Identity follows geography. Knowing where someone comes from reveals what they eat, how they speak, and sometimes what they fear. You store this away, unconsciously copying the habit. A woman beside you speaks next, describing a market where prices doubled overnight after a failed harvest. Her tone carries quiet frustration mixed with acceptance. Such changes were common, and this information mattered to anyone transporting goods. Inns functioned as informal economic indicators long before records were kept. There is an unexpected closeness in these exchanges. You may never meet again, yet stories flow freely. Knowing that morning will scatter, everyone makes the night feel suspended, almost unreal. A pattern becomes clear. Some travelers exaggerate their hardships, not seeking pity, but recognition. Hard journeys command respect. You sense the unspoken comparison: who walked farther, who endured colder nights, who risked more. This is not pride. It is a signal of survival. Endurance proves belonging. You speak little, choosing to listen. This seems to satisfy others. A quiet listener is rarely challenged. You nod at the right moments and offer brief agreement when appropriate. That is enough. Another small detail catches your eye. A man pulls a scrap of parchment from his pouch and passes it around carefully. It shows a rough map, lines blurred from use. No one dismisses it. Maps were uncommon and valuable, even flawed ones. Each person studies it closely, adding corrections from memory. Knowledge improves through shared input. Some historians argue that inns played a key role in spreading practical geographic understanding. Roads shifted, bridges failed, rivers changed course. Maps alone were insufficient. These conversations kept travelers alive. The fire sinks lower again. Someone adjusts it, and the innkeeper glances over before allowing it. The gesture is subtle. The night is moving forward, and energy must be preserved. You feel the day's weight settle completely. Muscles loosen. Thoughts slow. Even the scratch of straw fades into the background. Your breathing lengthens naturally. The group thins as people begin to lie down. Conversations trail off mid-thought, unfinished and irrelevant. A laugh turns into a yawn. Someone makes a sign of faith before stretching out. Another curls around their pack protectively. Speech continues, but in fragments. Words drift by without meaning. This is the space between waking and sleep, extended by shared noise and air. A lesser-known belief comes to mind. Some travelers avoided deep sleep in inns, fearing theft or danger. They trained themselves to rest lightly, waking at small disturbances. Whether this was common practice or simply advice from cautionary writings is unclear. Still, you sense it here. Bodies relax, but not fully. Hands remain close to belongings. Eyes close, but ears stay alert. You try this yourself, closing your eyes while keeping your posture slightly tense. It feels awkward at first, but fatigue smooths the effort. You drift without fully falling. Voices fade. The fire settles into a steady glow rather than open flame. Smoke thins as fewer logs are added somewhere above, perhaps in a loft or private room. Footsteps pass slowly, then stop. You become aware of breathing around you. Dozens of rhythms, each different, some shallow, some deep and rough. One nearby carries a faint whistle with each breath. Alone it might irritate. To blends in. Your thoughts wander briefly to the road ahead, then dissolve. Tomorrow belongs to tomorrow. Tonight holds you in this shared space among strangers who feel unexpectedly familiar. You begin to grasp something important. Sleeping in a medieval inn was not about rest as we understand it today. It was about pause, a temporary halt to movement, danger, and decision. You sink further into that pause. Sleep does not come suddenly. It seeps in. Warmth spreads unevenly through the room, and you notice how closely heat reflects status here. Those closest to the hearth claimed their advantage early, arranging themselves with practiced ease. Others, like you, accept a balance of warmth and chill. The fire never reaches everyone equally, and it never did. You pull the blanket tighter around your shoulders, feeling the course will brush your neck. It carries the smell of smoke and countless nights before this one. That smell is not unpleasant. It carries a quiet assurance that this fabric has served its purpose before. In a medieval inn, heat is never theoretical. It is physical, disputed, and always in flux. The fire at this moment is modest, no longer blazing, but steady. Large fires carried real danger. Sparks could jump. The wooden beams above were dry. Entire inns had disappeared because someone fed the flames too generously. Careful control mattered more than comfort. Period accounts mention innkeepers who rose every hour to check the embers long after guests had fallen asleep. Whether this happened every night is uncertain, but the concern itself was genuine. You notice how people position themselves while sleeping, feet angled toward the fire, backs pressed to the wall, faces turned inward. These arrangements are deliberate. They are habits learned through years of cold nights. Bodies settle in ways that conserve warmth, shield faces from drafts, and reduce unwanted contact with nearby sleepers. The heat arrives in pulses. When wood is added, warmth briefly spreads, then slowly recedes. Each addition feels like a small offering. Without intending to, you time your breathing to these changes, inhaling more deeply when the air warms. A quiet realization emerges as you lie there. Despite the number of people present, there is very little physical contact now. Earlier, knees and elbows brushed often. In sleep, personal space becomes protected. People draw inward, making themselves smaller. Even those sharing beds keep careful distance, touching only when necessary. It is an unspoken arrangement, followed without instruction. There is a common belief that medieval people were less sensitive to cold than we are. Some sources suggest this, citing heavier clothing and greater tolerance. Others argue that people felt the cold just as sharply but had fewer options. Lying here, the second explanation feels more convincing. Your toes ache slightly. Your nose feels cool. Endurance is not comfort. It is adaptation. A light draft moves across the floor, carrying the scent of damp earth. You pull your feet deeper beneath the blanket. This building breathes. Gaps in walls and doors allow air to circulate freely. Complete insulation was rare. Fresh air reduced smoke but invited cold. Every design choice involved compromise. Nearby, someone shifts suddenly. A blanket rustles loudly. You tense without thinking. Your heart speeds up briefly, then settles once the movement stops. This repeats several times. Each time, your reaction weakens. You are learning the patterns of the night. In a corner, a dog lifts its head, ears alert, then curls back into sleep. Animals often shared these spaces, offering warmth and security. Their presence was normal, even expected. The steady rhythm of its breathing becomes unexpectedly calming. The fire pops softly. A spark lifts and dies before reaching the beams. No one reacts. The sound has blended into the background. It signals safety rather than danger. You drift closer to sleep. Thoughts stretch and loosen. Images appear without order. The road behind you. Faces around a table. The innkeeper's steady hands. They blur together, losing definition. Then a sharper awareness interrupts. Cold. The fire has dropped again. Heat pulls back, leaving cold pockets behind. This is the most difficult part of the night. The hours before dawn. When fires are not replenished and bodies are too tired to adjust. You curl tighter, drawing your knees in slightly. The straw beneath you compresses further, offering less support. You shift, searching for balance, then stop and accept it. Acceptance comes more easily now. Some travelers slept fully clothed for this reason, layering garments instead of removing them. Others loosened only what was necessary, preserving warmth. You choose a middle approach. You ease tight straps but keep most layers on. Sleep here is functional, not ritualized. A subtle sound reaches you, distant but persistent. Wind brushes against the outer walls. The inn responds with faint groans as the wood adjusts to temperature changes. Elsewhere, these sounds might unsettle you. Here, they feel reassuring, as if the building is confirming its presence. Stories circulate of inns haunted by travelers who never departed. Whether these tales reflect belief or serve as warning entertainment is unclear. Lying here, surrounded by breath, warmth, and soft creaks, it is easy to see how such stories emerged. Darkness encourages interpretation. Your breathing deepens again. The room fades at the edges. You are not fully asleep, but no longer fully awake. This in-between state lasts longer than it would in silence. Noise keeps you anchored, preventing complete surrender. Nearby, a hand reaches out, searching briefly in the dark, then withdraws. Someone checking belongings. Someone waking from a partial dream. It passes without incident. Nighttime vigilance is understated. You think briefly about how many nights like this shaped daily life. Sleep broken into segments. Shared, cautious rest, interrupted often. Recovery gained in fragments. Modern expectations of deep, uninterrupted sleep would have felt unfamiliar here. The thought drifts away unfinished. Your body sinks deeper into the straw. The blanket now holds what little warmth remains. Your jaw unclenches. Your shoulders ease. The fire glows faintly. Embers pulse like slow breaths. The inn remains steady around you. Eventually, sleep stops circling. It settles. You stir without fully waking. Something shifts in the room, and your body reacts before your mind identifies the cause. A bench scrapes softly. Straw moves. A low voice murmurs, then disappears. This is how the night progresses here. Not in clear divisions, but in gentle disruptions that spread briefly and fade. Your eyes stay closed. That feels safer. Darkness behind your eyelids is easier to manage than the flickering half-light of dying embers. You listen instead. Listening has become dominant. It tells you what demands attention and what does not. Footsteps move slowly across the room, careful to avoid sleeping bodies. Someone heads toward the door, or perhaps toward the corner where the privy bucket sits. Nighttime needs continue even when rest is limited. People rise and return quietly, guided by memory and instinct. A soft cough breaks the silence near your feet. Another answers from farther away. These sounds feel personal now. Shared signs of vulnerability. No one complains. Illness is common. So is exhaustion. Complaints consume energy. The room's smell has shifted slightly. The sharp edge of ale has softened. Smoke lingers but no longer thickens. What remains is the warm, sour scent of many resting bodies. It is not pleasant, but it is familiar. Familiarity brings calm. You adjust your weight slightly, testing how deeply sleep has taken hold. Your limbs feel heavy as if gravity has increased. This is the quiet benefit of fatigue. It grounds you, making movement feel optional rather than necessary. A sudden laugh cuts through the air, brief and sharp. It startles you. Somewhere, someone has dreamed something amusing, frightening, or strange. The laugh fades quickly, replaced by silence. Dreams cross into waking easily in shared spaces. You sense, without looking, that the fire has burned down to glowing coals. The room is cooler now. Cold advances slowly, touching exposed skin first. Your face feels it. Your hands follow, drawing closer to your body without opening your eyes. This part of the night feels longest. Before dawn, after distraction has faded, the body seeks deep rest, but the surroundings resist. You drift instead, moving between shallow dreams. Images surface without warning. A road with no end. A table piled with bowls that never empty. Faces without clear features, speaking words you cannot hear. These are not stories. They are fragments shaped by the day just lived. A faint whisper reaches you. Two voices, low and cautious. Someone has awakened and chosen this hour to speak quietly, believing most others are asleep. Secrets often surface now. You do not listen closely. Whatever is said belongs to them. There is a moment of quiet so complete that it almost feels like dawn has come too soon. Then the building responds. With tightening in the cold. The sound moves through the beams and settles into the floorboards. The inn reminds you that it, too, is alive. People in this era slept differently than modern habits suggest. Historical accounts indicate that waking during the night was common, even expected. Some prayed, some reflected, others simply waited until sleep returned. Continuous, unbroken rest was unusual. You are taking part in a rhythm that existed long before clocks defined time. Your thoughts briefly turn to safety. Are you safe here? The question comes calmly, without fear. You consider it honestly. There are dangers. Theft, sickness, fire. Yet you are surrounded by others facing the same risks. That shared vulnerability creates a quiet form of protection. Any harm would draw attention. A lesser-known habit comes to mind. Some travelers slept with a hand looped through the strap of their bag so movement would wake them. You try it now, fingers resting loosely on the leather. The act offers comfort more than real security. You drift again. Time loses its edges. Minutes stretch. Hours compress. Your breathing deepens, then lightens. Somewhere nearby, someone snores loudly, pauses, then continues. The rhythm is steady enough to fade into the background. Cold presses closer as the fire finally dies out. This is the hour that tests blankets. You pull yours higher, covering your mouth. Warm breath gathers beneath the fabric, damp and reassuring. You breathe slowly to keep the warmth in place. A faint glow begins to creep around the shutters, barely noticeable at first. You do not register it consciously, but your body responds. Hormones shift. Sleep loosens slightly. Outside, something moves. A cart, perhaps, or an early traveler passing by. The sound is distant and muted, but its signals change. The world beyond the inn has not paused. Inside, people begin to stir in small ways. A stretch. A sigh. A quiet curse as someone turns onto a sore hip. The night is preparing to let go. You open your eyes briefly, just long enough to orient yourself. The room is dim now, blue-gray instead of orange. Shapes soften. Faces are still. You close your eyes again. There is no need to hurry. This half-light feels gentler than darkness. It promises resolution. Whatever discomfort the night carried is nearly finished. Your thoughts slow, settling into quiet acceptance. You have endured the hardest part. Cold, noise, interruption. You have rested enough to go on. Sleep thins but does not disappear. You hover in that fragile space where waking begins to outweigh dreaming. Morning is coming. Not yet, but soon. The first true signs of morning arrive without ceremony. No bell, no announcement, only a subtle shift in how the room holds itself. Breathing changes. Bodies stretch farther before settling again. You sense it before you see it. The night loosening its grip. A pale gray light slips through the shutters, thin as smoke, spreading across walls and floor, revealing shapes that were only guessed at before. The fire is now reduced to dull embers. Any warmth it offered is gone. Cold has reclaimed the space, sharper now that sleep has faded. You lie still, listening. Morning sounds differ from those of night. They carry intention. Someone clears their throat. Another sits up slowly, joints cracking in quiet complaint. A boot scrapes along the floor, searching for its pair. These sounds have purpose. Night allowed rest. Morning requires movement. Your body resists at first. Muscles ache in unfamiliar places. The straw beneath you feels harder now, less forgiving. You shift carefully, testing what hurts and what does not. Your back protests, then settles. This is the cost of rest taken wherever it can be found. Someone yawns widely, making no effort to hide it. A ripple follows. Yawns spread easily. Even here, even now, fatigue binds everyone together one last time before the day pulls them apart. The innkeeper is already awake. You realize this without seeing them. It is evident in the way the room is being managed. A shutter opens slightly. A bucket is moved. A low voice gives instructions to someone younger. The machinery of the day begins quietly, practiced, and efficient. Morning in a medieval inn did not bring leisure. It brought urgency. Travelers wanted to leave early to use the daylight. The innkeeper wanted them gone in good order before tempers rose and debts became questions. Departure followed a rhythm shaped by long habit. You sit up slowly, the blanket slipping from your shoulders. The cold strikes immediately, sharp enough to draw a soft hiss. You pull your cloak tighter. Sleeping in layers helped, but rising still stings. You rub your hands together, breathing into them, trying to bring warmth back to stiff fingers. Light strengthens gradually. Faces become clearer. You recognize a few from the night before. Others look different now, stripped of firelight and shadow. Everyone appears more ordinary in daylight. Less mysterious. More human. A man near the door stands and stretches, arms raised, then bends to gather his belongings. He moves quickly, efficiently. This is not his first departure. He knows what matters. Pack cloak, coin purse. The rest can wait. You do the same, reaching for your things and checking them by touch rather than sight. Pack strap, pouch, knife. All present. Relief settles in your chest. Loss during the night would have lasted far longer than discomfort. A faint smell of bread reaches you now. Subtle but unmistakable. Someone has placed a small loaf near the fire to warm it slightly. Morning food in inns was often minimal, if it existed at all. Many travelers brought their own. Still, the scent lifts your spirits. Even a small amount of food makes the road feel less hostile. You watch as people approach the counter one by one. Some offer a coin. Some give a nod. Some say nothing. Payment was not always precise, especially for those who slept on the floor. The arrangement was flexible, shaped by custom more than strict record-keeping. Historians continue to debate whether morning meals were standard in inns or rare exceptions. Evidence varies by region and period. What seems clear is that expectations were modest. No one waits for comfort. Morning is about readiness, not enjoyment. You accept a small piece of bread when it is offered, murmuring a quiet thanks. It is coarse, dense, slightly stale. The deal. It fills your mouth and steadies your stomach. You chew slowly, aware this may be your last solid food for hours. Around you, conversations resume briefly, then fade. The stories of the night are finished. Now come directions, warnings, quick exchanges of information. A damaged bridge ahead. A market opening late. Rain expected by afternoon. These details matter more than tales now. Someone mentions the weather with a tired sigh. Cold mornings drain energy quickly. Travelers adjusted their plans accordingly. Sometimes leaving later to let frost lift. Sometimes earlier to avoid it. You consider your own route instinctively, even if you have not named it yet. The innkeeper moves among the guests, watchful but calm. Their task now is to clear the space and prepare for the next cycle. Straw refreshed. Floors swept. Fires rebuilt. The night always leaves work behind. You stand fully now, feeling gravity settle back into your body. Sleep has withdrawn, leaving a dull ache and a sense of completion. You made it through the night. That matters more than comfort. As you lift your pack onto your shoulder, you take one last look at the room as it actually is. Not a sanctuary, not a threat, but a system. It collects people, warms them for a short time, feeds them just enough, then sends them onward. That is its function. A brief thought passes through your mind. Despite its lack of ease, the inn provided something uncommon. Witnesses. If something had gone wrong, someone would have noticed. Someone would have recalled it. That shared presence mattered in a world where being alone could be fatal. You head toward the door with the others. Cold air slips in as it opens. sharp and invigorating. Outside the road waits, pale and still. The sky has brightened enough to show its outline, though the sun remains out of sight. You pause at the doorway for a moment. Breathing in the outside air, it feels cleaner, lighter. You stand straighter here, more awake. The inn has served its purpose. Behind you, the door shuts again, muting the noise inside. One more night completed. One more group of travelers scattered. You step forward, boots touching the road, body stiff but functional, the day opening ahead, uncertain yet available, and as you move on, the warmth of the night fades completely, leaving only memory and forward motion. The road greets you with a directness the inn never offered. Cold air clears the remaining smoke from your lungs, and your breath feels crisper, clearer. Your muscles complain as you return to motion. Rest was incomplete. It always is. Still, movement feels easier than expected, as though the night, despite its discomfort, accomplished its quiet task. You walk for some time before fully waking. The steady pattern of your steps carries you ahead. Each step reminds you that you are alone again, or at least apart. The inn falls away behind you quickly. Structures like that fade from memory faster than the road itself. They are pauses, not endpoints. As you walk, your thoughts return to the night, not in order, but in pieces. The warmth by the hearth, the heaviness of the blanket, voices overlapping before dissolving into breathing and sleep. These impressions linger briefly, then loosen as morning takes hold. You adjust the strap of your pack, noticing where it pressed into your shoulder overnight. A mild soreness remains. It will pass soon, replaced by the familiar strain of travel. You accept this without protest. Discomfort is expected. It confirms that you are still moving. In this period, travelers often judged nights not by how well they slept, but by results. Did you wake with your possessions? Did sickness pass you by? Did the fire stay controlled? By those standards, the night was successful. Comfort was an extra, not a guarantee. As the inn slips out of view, you notice something subtle. Your awareness feels sharper than it did the previous evening. You listen more carefully to the sounds around you. Birds testing the morning, wind moving through bare branches, distant water. The night has refined you, not dulled you. There is an assumption that medieval travel hardened people until fatigue and cold numbed their senses. Walking now, you suspect the opposite. Nights like that trained attentiveness. You learned to notice small changes because they mattered. Safety often depended on noticing before understanding. You pass another traveler moving the other way. There is no exchange, only a nod. That nod holds recognition. You both understand what the other has recently endured. Shared experience requires little explanation. The road itself offers information if you observe it. Deeper ruts on one side suggest heavy carts favoring a certain path. Bits of straw point to livestock driven through earlier. Mud dried into irregular patterns shows where water moved overnight. These signs guide you as much as any map. Some scholars suggest that repeated nights in inns helped create a shared culture of travel across regions. Gestures, expectations, and habits spread alongside goods. You feel part of that now, even if you cannot define it. The way you walk, the way you scan ahead, the way you manage attention all reflect lessons learned both inside and out. Your stomach tightens slightly as the warmth of the stew fully fades. The bread sits heavy but not filling. You know when you will need to eat again. You plan your pace accordingly, measuring distance not in miles, but in hunger. A small memory surfaces. The horseshoe above the hearth. You briefly wonder whether it brought luck or simply represented continuity. Objects like that outlast individuals. They gain meaning through repetition. Tonight, another traveler will notice it and consider the same question. The night also leaves marks on your body. Your shoulders hunch faintly against imagined cold. Your hands tighten instinctively when a sound surprises you. These reactions will soften as daylight strengthens. By afternoon, you will feel like yourself again, or whatever version the road permits. You pause briefly at a bend where the road slopes downward. From here, the inn is no longer visible. That feels meaningful, though you cannot explain why. You take a breath and continue. There is no reason to stop. As you walk, you reflect on how nights like that shaped expectations. You did not hope for quiet. You did not expect privacy. Success was measured by survival and continuity. Modern ideas of rest would have seemed unfamiliar here, even excessive. Your thoughts turned to those who stayed behind. The innkeeper resetting the room, the child carrying bowls, the dog settling again near the hearth. Their day is beginning as yours moves on. Their movement is different, but just as essential. Historians disagree on whether people slept better at home than on the road. Some sources argue that familiarity improved rest. Others note that households were often crowded and noisy as well. Sleep everywhere was broken. What changed was familiarity, not conditions. Walking now, you feel the absence of the crowd more than its presence. The road is quieter than the inn ever was. That quiet feels broad and slightly exposed. You adjust your pace without thinking, aligning your breathing with your steps. A memory of laughter from the common room returns briefly. It feels far away now, like something heard long ago. Nights compress emotion. Days stretch it thin. You reach a small rise and pause to look ahead. The landscape opens slightly. Fields bare and waiting. A line of trees marking water. Smoke lifting faintly from a distant settlement. You calculate without effort. How far? How long? How hungry? How tired? The night has taught efficiency. You waste fewer movements now. You tighten straps correctly. You avoid uneven ground when possible. These small adjustments add up. They make travel sustainable. You think again of the shared sleeping space, of bodies breathing together, of alertness without fear. That setting required awareness without panic. It taught balance. Too alert, and rest never comes. Too relaxed, and loss follows. Walking now, you carry that balance forward. By mid-morning the cold will ease. By afternoon, fatigue will return in another form. Tonight, another inn or shelter will appear. The pattern continues. For now you walk. The road receives you again. Unconcerned but passable. The memory of the inn fades into something practical rather than vivid. You do not long for it, but you understand it now. As the sun rises higher, the night at the inn feels both distant and oddly present, like a weight no longer carried but still remembered. Your body settles back into the rhythm of the road. Each step lands with greater assurance. Muscles warm. Breathing steadies. The stiffness from sleeping on straw loosens gradually, replaced by a familiar dullness you recognize as endurance. You notice how the night has sharpened your perception. Sounds seem clearer now. The creak of leather, the crunch of gravel, a bird calling from somewhere unseen. At the inn, noise surrounded you constantly. Each sound now stands alone, easy to notice and interpret. You listen not from fear, but from habit. Travelers of this time often describe the road as a teacher, not through words, but through repetition. Every night spent in shared spaces taught lessons that daylight confirmed. You learn how much water you need, how far you can walk before hunger clouds judgment, how cold feels differently after exhaustion. None of this is written. It settles into your body. The sun finally burns away the low clouds, casting pale light over the path. Frost sparkles briefly on the roadside grass before vanishing. You watch without thought. Cold is temporary. So is warmth. Both are expected. As you walk, fragments of the inn replay in your mind. The innkeeper's glance, the quiet negotiation of space, how people slept lightly, ready to wake. You notice how much of that behavior carries into the day. You scan ahead. Check your pet. Choose your steps carefully. Medieval life is often imagined as a state of constant fear. Walking now, you feel something different. Awareness. Caution, yes, but not panic. Panic wastes energy. The night taught you that. When noise was constant and privacy absent, calm became a tool. You pass a small stream and pause to drink. The water is cold and clear. Kneeling carefully, you cup it in your hands. Drinking like this is risky, but thirst outweighs caution. Travelers judge streams by smell, clarity, and local knowledge. You trust your senses and move on. The road curves, revealing more of the landscape. Low hills, open fields, a distant line of trees marking a boundary to reach later. You measure progress not in distance, but in effort, how long before rest, how the sun presses on your back. There is quiet comfort in knowing that tonight you may find another inn, a barn, or a roadside shelter. The details matter less than the rhythm, movement, pause, movement. Life unfolds in these cycles. You briefly think of the people from the inn. Faces blur now, but their presence lingers. They shaped your rest as you shaped theirs. Bodies influence one another. Breathing synchronizes. Vigilance spreads. Comfort becomes communal. Modern writers romanticize medieval inns as adventurous or dangerous, or as miserable and grim. Walking now, you sense the truth lies in between. Inns were functional, necessary, sometimes unpleasant, sometimes reassuring, like most things meant to keep people moving. Your stomach reminds you that the stew was hours ago. You adjust pace to conserve energy. These calculations now feel natural, giving structure to the day. As the road stretches, thoughts simplify. Plans narrow to the next bend, the next drink, the next rest. Complexity belongs to cities and courts. Here, simplicity keeps you alive. You pause again, adjusting your pack. Leather straps damp with sweat, you loosen, then retighten. Small discomforts accumulate quickly if ignored. The inn taught you that straw tolerable at first becomes unbearable by morning. Attention matters. Memories of shared sleep return. Lying among strangers felt strange at first, normal by the end. Humans adapt quickly. Privacy is a habit, not a necessity. Nights like these shaped expectations. Dreams tangled in shared air. Waking beside strangers became routine. Sleep was social, not private. The sun climbs higher, warmth spreading across your shoulders. You loosen your cloak, letting heat escape. The cold night feels distant, yet its memory sharpens appreciation for daylight. At a crossroads, marked only by a simple post, you pause. One path leads to another place of rest, the other to longer solitude. Both have costs. You choose and step forward. The night at the inn did not bring comfort, but it gave continuity, enough recovery to move again. Rest does not need perfection. It needs to be enough. And for now it was. By midday the road feels different. Morning chill has lifted, replaced by steady warmth. Your body moves freely, joints loosening with each mile. The night's influence lingers quietly in how you walk, pause, and watch. Stopping where the ground rises slightly, you see low fields and hedges stretching out. Farmers work slowly, a cart moves along a path, life unfolding gently compared to the compressed inn. You breathe deeply. Open space is relief after hours of shared warmth. Stretching, shoulders roll, the straw ache dulls. A difficult night buys a functional day. Walking, you reflect on sleep's role in travel. Not just duration but quality. The night taught patience. Sleep can be partial and useful. You floated between alertness and rest, a pattern that guides you now. Details catch your attention, balance returns faster when the road dips. Some travelers avoided inns, choosing barns, sheds, or open ground. Accounts from the period describe both choices. Decisions depended on weather, money, companions, instinct. There was no single right answer, only trade-offs. You assess the sky, clouds thin and scattered, no sign of rain. Calculating distance before the next shelter, you remember the inn's lesson. Do not assume availability, seek shelter early. A traveler rests on a low stone, boots off, feet steaming. They glance up, offering a tired smile. You return it. Words aren't needed. You both understand the pause. Further along, a small group walks together. Conversation punctuated by laughter. They move closely, steps in rhythm. Companionship changes travel. Shared nights in inns often led to temporary alliances. Safety rises with numbers. Noise does too. You consider joining them, but solitude feels right today. The night was crowded enough. As the sun reaches its peak, hunger returns. Morning bread is gone. You slow slightly, conserving energy. Pushing through hunger leads to mistakes, twisted ankles, missed turns. The night taught caution, the road reinforces it. You find a tree, lean back, letting rough bark press against your spine. Eyes close for a moment. This rest differs from the inn. Quiet, voluntary. You could rest here if you wanted, but you choose not to. Rest comes in many forms. As you sit, your mind drifts back to the shared sleeping space of the inn. The way bodies instinctively arrange themselves, the way sound became a kind of blanket. You notice the trust that implied, even when unspoken. Trust in the innkeeper. Trust in the crowd. Trust that vigilance would be enough. Records tell of travelers complaining bitterly about nights in inns, lice, noise, theft. Yet there are also accounts of gratitude, warmth offered in storms, lives saved by timely shelter. The truth about inns lies in these contradictions. They were imperfect solutions to constant movement. You open your eyes. Leaves stir above, sunlight flickers through shifting patterns on the ground. You realize how rarely medieval people experienced true silence. Even here, birds call, wind moves. In the inn, sound was human and constant. Out here, it is broader, less demanding. You rise and continue walking, feeling steadier from the pause. Your steps fall into rhythm. Each mile brings subtle changes. The road shifts, the air smells different. Invisible boundaries shaped by land and local custom pass beneath your feet. As afternoon deepens, fatigue returns. Quieter this time, not the sharp exhaustion of night but a slow, steady drain. You accept it. This is expected. The night was never meant to restore fully, only to reset enough. Your thoughts turn ahead. Where will you sleep tonight? Another inn, a farmhouse willing to take a small coin, or a sheltered spot along the road? You weigh the options calmly. Planning has become part of your journey. The memory of the innkeeper surfaces, steady movements, careful balance of warmth and restraint. You realize how much responsibility rested on them. Hosting strangers, managing fire and food, handling conflict through long nights. Inns were not passive spaces, they required constant attention. You feel a brief, flickering appreciation. Without such labor, the road would be harsher, more dangerous. Even flawed shelter matters. The sun begins its slow descent, though it still feels early. Light softens, shadows lengthen. You adjust your pace, conscious that daylight is finite. The night will demand preparation. You walk on, carrying lessons of straw, smoke, and shared breath. The inn has receded into memory, but its imprint remains, in posture, patience, and awareness. By late afternoon, the world tilts gently toward evening. Sunlight softens further, shadows stretch like long fingers pointing forward. You feel the shift before seeing it. The day exhales and your energy thins. Your pace slows naturally. Each step is steady, but urgency has faded. The inn's night has shaped this moment. You know better than to enter darkness unprepared. Shelter is secured while light remains. You scan the landscape deliberately. Trees could block wind. A rise might offer drainage if rain comes. Smoke suggests habitation. Where people gather, shelter usually follows. You weigh these signs as you once did the inn itself. Fatigue settles into your legs, not painful, just persistent. The road asks more than it did this morning. Shoulders heavy beneath your pack, you loosen straps slightly, feeling instant relief. Small adjustments matter more as day wanes. You reach a small stream and pause. You drink slowly, savoring the coolness, washing sweat and dust from your hands and face. The water sharpens your focus briefly. Cleanliness on the road is fleeting, but these moments restore. Moving onward, evening sounds reach you. A dog barking, a hammer striking rhythmically. People are settling in. The landscape shifts together. Thoughts drift back to the inn. How odd it felt to surrender personal boundaries, and how quickly it became normal. That experience alters expectations. Sleep is no longer a private ritual. It is a negotiation with space, sound, and circumstance. You wonder how often medieval travelers truly slept alone. Households were crowded, inns communal, even barns and sheds housed animals. Solitude was rare, perhaps never missed because it was never promised. Light dims, the road loses detail. Colors flatten, distance blurs. Attention sharpens. Fatigue invites mistakes, and mistakes near dusk carry through the night. Cresting a low hill, you see a small settlement clustered below, smoke curling lazily. Relief spreads, subtle but real. Options now exist. As you descend, You consider what rest you seek tonight. Another inn offers warmth and company, a farmhouse, quieter space if welcomed. Shelter on the settlement's edge provides cover without intrusion. Each choice has its risks and comforts. You remember the innkeeper's careful balance of generosity and caution. The same applies here. Too late invites suspicion, too early invites obligation. Timing matters. Approaching the outskirts, you slow further, posture signaling fatigue but not desperation. Too strong, and you seem unnecessary, too weak, and a burden. These judgments are swift, often unconscious. Passing a field where animals are gathered by quiet voices, you breathe in the earthy, hay-filled air, grounding yourself. The memory of straw beneath your back reminds you comfort is relative. Rest does not require perfection, only acceptance. You reach the settlement's edge, pausing. Light glows from a few windows, others are dark. Sounds of activity, laughter, cooking, movement, guide your next step. The day catches up in waves. Feet ache, neck stiffens, shoulders roll to ease tension. Lying down anywhere grows more appealing. Thoughts return to shared breathing in the inn, sleep coming slowly, staying. That memory steadies you. Noise will not surprise, cold will not shock. You have learned to rest lightly. Historians debate whether repeated exposure built resilience or wore travelers down. Likely both. Some adapted, some broke. You feel closer to adaptation, not because the night was easy, but because it was survivable. You choose a path toward a building that might offer shelter. Perhaps it is an inn. Perhaps a communal hall. You approach without hurry, taking time to read the situation, knowing that if it fails, there will be other options. The sky deepens, shifting toward muted blues and grays. Birds settle. The air cools again. You draw your cloak tighter, grateful for its weight. Whatever comes next, one thing is certain: the night ahead is shaped by the one before. You carry forward lessons, not as memories but as habits. How to lie down without fear. How to wake without surprise. How to share space without resentment. You step forward, ready to negotiate rest once more. The edge of the settlement arrives just as the last warmth of the day slips away. The air presses against your skin, renewed and insistent. Evening here does not fall suddenly. It settles, layer by layer, and you feel each one. Your pace slows, guided less by distance than by instinct. You pause, letting your eyes adjust. The buildings ahead are simple, low, practical, unadorned. Nothing inviting in the way stories promise, but shelter matters. A faint smell of cooking drifts through the air, mingled with smoke and damp earth. Your stomach reminds you how light today's meals were. You step forward carefully, boots louder than intended on the packed ground. Sound travels differently at dusk. People notice. You are now visible, a moving shape against stillness, a presence to be read and judged. A door opens to your left. Light spills out briefly, warm and yellow, then narrows as someone steps into the threshold. They glance at you, not alarmed, only curious. You lower your gaze slightly, signaling fatigue rather than threat. Small cues matter more than words. You remember the inn from last night. Entry was not just physical, but social. The same applies here. You ask silently to be allowed near rest. Timing, demeanor, luck, all decide the answer. You approach the building most likely to welcome travelers. Its door is sturdy, walls worn. A patch of ground shows frequent passage. This is no private home. It is accustomed to strangers. Your body tightens slightly, fatigue and caution coexist. You remind yourself, even if the door stays closed, the night remains manageable. You have learned that already. Before you can knock, the door opens wider. A face appears, lit by firelight, not the innkeeper from last night, but similar, watchful, appraising. They take in your pack, your posture, your expression. You greet them simply. No long explanation, no apology. Words are brief at this hour. You ask for a place to rest. The request is plain, stripped of expectation. There is a pause, not long, but enough for you to feel it. They consider. You stand still, hands relaxed, eyes steady. Desperation would hurt your chances. Confidence would seem arrogant. Balance is key. At last, they nod and step aside. The door opens fully. Warmth spills out, carrying smoke, food, human presence. Relief moves through you quietly but unmistakably. You step inside, feeling the day finally loosen its grip. The room is smaller than the inn you left, but the logic is the same. Shared warmth, shared air, shared endurance. Only a few people are present. They glance up briefly, then return to their tasks. You are noticed, then absorbed. This is the rhythm here. New arrivals ripple, then settle. You remove your pack carefully, placing it where it will not obstruct movement. Courtesy here is physical, not verbal. You take only the space given. The person who admitted you gestures to a spot near the wall. Straw, a blanket if available, no promises. You nod in thanks. Gratitude is shown through compliance. As you lower yourself to the floor, leg aches deepen briefly, then ease. Sitting still feels harder than walking. Your body hums with residual motion. You let it fade gradually. The room is quieter than the inn, yet not silent. Low conversation continues near the fire. Someone stirs a pot slowly. The rhythm is calming. These ordinary sounds signal safety. Silence would feel unnatural. You listen without intruding. Voices speak of neighbors, repairs, a distant market. Not stories meant to impress, but the fabric of daily survival. Food is offered again, simpler than last night. You accept, knowing refusal would raise questions. You eat slowly, savoring warmth more than flavor. Eating here is about alignment. You are part of the evening. Tiredness floods in fully, different from the creeping fatigue of the inn. Full body heaviness settles in your hands, jaw, and behind your eyes. You welcome it. Arranging your blanket, you settle into the straw. The position is familiar. Your body remembers how to place weight, angle shoulders, keep warmth close. Others prepare for sleep with minimal ceremony. Cloaks adjusted, shoes set within reach, whispered prayers or stretches. You close your eyes earlier than the night before. Less to watch, less to learn. Trust comes quicker, not because it is safer, but because you are more prepared. Sounds blur into a steady background. Your breathing slows. The ground beneath you is firm but supportive. Memory of the previous night flickers, then recedes. Each night stands alone, shaped by the last but not defined by it. You realize something essential. The inn taught you to share rest. This place teaches acceptance. Both lessons matter. Thoughts thin, no longer tugging at each other. The day releases you fully. The road waits for tomorrow. For now, there is nothing to decide. Sleep comes quietly and you let it. Sleep is deeper this time, not because the place is better, but because you are ready. Your body knows the pattern. The floor is firm. The straw shifts softly. The blanket preserves warmth. Nothing more to negotiate. You sink. Breathing finds a natural rhythm. Inhale. Exhale. The day loosens its grip in layers. Thoughts thin first, then images. Finally, the quiet awareness of your own weight fades. You drift into wandering dreams. They demand little, shallow, roaming, shaped by motion rather than story. You walk without destination. You sit beside a fire that never needs tending. Voices drift through the space, yet there is no requirement to respond. Dreams come and go, slipping away as the room subtly shifts around you. A sound draws you closer to waking. Someone stirs near the fire. Wood is adjusted, a pot shifts slightly. The noise is soft, almost apologetic. You do not open your eyes. You notice it, then let it pass. Interruptions like this are familiar, learned, and accepted. The air cools gradually as the fire settles. You feel it on your cheek, then along your hands. Without thought, you curl inward, drawing warmth closer. Your body remembers this motion. It no longer startles you. It belongs to sleep now. There is a quiet sense of company here, quieter than the inn, yet undeniably present. You are not alone. That awareness rests beneath consciousness, offering a steady calm. Shared spaces carry this quality. Even in silence, presence hums. A voice murmurs softly, perhaps a prayer, perhaps a habitual word spoken into darkness. It is brief and unremarkable, yet carries weight. Sleep here is never entirely solitary. Lives overlap even in rest. You wake again, briefly unsure why. There is no sound, no identifiable movement, just a subtle alertness. Like a ripple across water, you remain still, listening. The room breathes. The walls hold. Nothing demands action. This waking is familiar. It is not fear, it is awareness. People of this time expected it. Sleep came in pieces, stitched together by patience rather than force. You allow yourself to drift again, trusting that you will wake if necessary. Your dreams shift, carrying fragments of the road, dust, sunlight, the steady pull of forward motion. These images feel lighter than those of the inn, less crowded. You follow them effortlessly. A faint scent of smoke lingers, woven into everything. It recalls warmth without providing it, settling quietly in your mind as a symbol of safety. You roll slightly, adjusting pressure on your shoulder. Straw beneath you shifts. Someone nearby moves in response, then settles again. This unconscious adjustment keeps the space balanced. There is an old belief that sleeping near others keeps the worst dreams at bay. Whether it was widespread or simply comforting is unclear. Lying here, you understand why. Fear fades in shared air. Time stretches without measure. Hours are uncounted. Dawn is unanticipated. You exist in the present, suspended between fatigue and rest. This peace is earned, not chosen. Cold presses closer before morning as it always does. You notice it, then pull the blanket higher. Your breath warms the air beneath the wool, creating a small, steady pocket of comfort. Outside, wind moves through trees or across open ground, its sound filtered and softened. It is not threatening, merely context, a reminder that life continues beyond these walls. Your mind briefly recalls the inn from the previous night, the noise, the crowd, the restless sleep. That discomfort now seems instructive. It prepared you for this quieter rest, teaching you to let go without expecting perfection. You drift again, deeper this time. Dreaming and waking blur. Thoughts dissolve before fully forming. Sensation narrows to warmth and weight. A moment of stillness arrives, almost sacred. No movement, no sound. Even breathing feels paused, though it continues. This is the deepest rest you have felt in days. When you wake next, it is to light, not full morning but a pale glow filtering through a wall gap or shutter edge. Your eyes open slowly. The room is quiet, but not empty. Others sleep, forms softened by half-light. Awareness returns gradually. Your body feels heavy, yet untroubled. The night has passed without interruption. Rest was sufficient. You reflect on how this sleep differs from the previous night. Fewer voices, less movement, steadier quiet. Yet both served the same purpose, carrying you through darkness and returning you to day. You stretch a hand, testing mild stiffness. You breathe deeply, lungs filling with the faint scent of smoke and earth. Someone near the fire stirs, rising slowly. The motion is unremarkable but signals the start of morning. Wake, gather, move on. No need to rush. The road will wait as it always does. For a few more moments, you remain held by straw and shared space, suspended between rest and motion. Then, slowly you begin again. You rise deliberately, not from necessity but from absence of urgency. Soft, even light filters in, shaping the room gently. Faces appear calmer. Corners less severe. You pause, allowing breath to steady and joints to release. Straw shifts faintly beneath you. Shoulders roll, warmth returning where stiffness lingered. This is what a good night provides. Restoration sufficient for the day ahead. Others awaken in stages. A low groan accompanies a stretch. Another sits quietly, eyes closed, gathering themselves before moving. Speech comes later, once bodies are aligned with purpose. Belongings are checked, pouches touched, knots tested, shoes relocated. Ritual replaces anxiety. Habits honed in spaces like the inn endure here, vigilance shared, never abandoned. A pot near the fire stirs gently, catching your attention without demand. Whatever remains inside will be simple, perhaps water-thinned leftovers, warm enough. You wait patiently. Light strengthens, revealing dust motes drifting lazily, suspended in calm. Motion without urgency is unexpectedly soothing. Food is offered, and you accept gratefully. The bowl is warm in your hands. Contents taste plain, but heat spreads with each swallow. You eat deliberately, savoring small comfort. Conversation begins, subdued and practical. Directions and plans are exchanged. The future matters now. You listen quietly, your own path is still forming. Nights like this teach flexibility. Certainty can wait. When you finish, you pack carefully, each movement deliberate. Morning routines unfold naturally. A new day begins, carried forward with presence, patience, and quiet awareness. You have learned that rushing invites mistakes. The inn was the first place to teach you that. When moving blindly in the dark risked danger, the lesson became clear. Now, in the soft morning light, it remains. You stand fully, testing your balance. The floor feels solid. Your legs feel capable. There is quiet satisfaction in this simple check. You are ready to continue. The person who welcomed you last night offers a nod as you pass. No words, no expectation of thanks. Shelter was given, shelter was used, the exchange complete. You return the nod, feeling the simplicity settle in your chest. Outside, the morning air greets you with cool clarity. It is colder than the room behind you, but fresher. You breathe deeply, letting the last traces of smoke fade. The sky above is pale and open. The day stretches forward. You pause just beyond the doorway, adjusting your pack, letting your eyes travel across the landscape. Roads split and rejoin here. Paths, worn by countless feet, extend in several directions. You choose one without ceremony. Choice feels lighter now. As you walk, you notice how the nights you've spent shape your movement. Your steps are quieter, your awareness wider. You no longer feel the need to fill silence with thought. You let it exist. There is a sense of continuity following you. The inn, the smaller shelter, different spaces, same purpose. They held you when movement was impossible and returned you to yourself just enough to continue. This pattern repeats across lives and centuries. Rarely celebrated, always necessary. You pass a small cluster of trees and notice traces of previous travelers, flattened grass, a ring of stones where a fire once burned. Someone rested here once, perhaps avoiding an inn or unable to find one. The road offers many kinds of rest if you know how to accept them. Your pace settles naturally, not hurried, not slow. You move in rhythm with your breath. The road responds, offering firm ground and gentle curves. This understanding feels earned. As the sun climbs, warmth returns gradually. You loosen your cloak, letting heat escape. The cold of night fades into memory, useful, but no longer pressing. Its lessons remain without its burden. You think briefly of those still behind you, waking more slowly, preparing fires or tending fields. Their days differ from yours, yet are equally shaped by shared nights and practical rest. Movement and stillness balance across the landscape. There is ease in you now that wasn't there before, not comfort exactly, but confidence. You know what you can endure and what you need to keep going. That knowledge quiets unnecessary worry. The road opens wider. Sunlight pools in shallow dips. You step into it willingly, feeling strength return with each stride. Hunger will come again. Fatigue will follow. Another night will require negotiation. But you have learned how to meet those moments. For now, the morning belongs to you. You walk on, steady and unburdened, carrying rest not as memory, but as momentum. As the day unfolds, you notice how sleep, even fragmented and shared, reshapes your inner rhythm. Thoughts feel steadier, less pulled by urgency. The road no longer pushes you forward. It invites a pace that feels sustainable, almost conversational. Your feet find a pattern again, matching your breathing. Step, weight shift. Each movement feels intentional without effort. The stiffness from the night dissolves into a quiet awareness of your body, present but not demanding. This awareness keeps you attentive without exhausting you. You pass through a woodland patch, sunlight filtering through broken leaves. Leaves rustle overhead in a light breeze. The sound mirrors the low murmurs of shared sleeping spaces. Different in source, but similar in effect. a steady backdrop that reassures rather than distracts. Walking, you consider how nights at the inn and smaller shelter shape expectations. Sleep is no longer escape, it is preparation. A pause that equips you just enough to continue. That understanding influences your approach to the day. You take fewer risks, listen more carefully, and trust gradual progress over bursts of effort. Ahead, a stream wider than the last waits. You slow, testing its edge. Water moves steadily, clear but cold. You gauge depth and current before crossing. Reading before acting is a habit honed in nights where awareness mattered more than comfort. You cross carefully, boots splashing lightly. Cold bites at your toes. You wince, then laugh softly. Discomfort is brief and manageable. On the far bank, you pause, letting water drain and circulation return. The road teaches patience in small ways. Fields stretch outward, interrupted by hedges and occasional stone markers. You feel exposed, more visible than in the trees. This awareness adjusts your posture slightly, shoulders back, head up. You move with confidence, not to invite attention, but to discourage it. Travelers learned quickly to signal intent without words. Pace, posture, gaze conveyed more than speech. Nights and shared spaces taught restraint. Not staring, not flinching, not claiming more space than offered. Those lessons guide you now. Your thoughts drift to the people you slept beside at the inn. Their faces blurred, yet presence remains as impression. You shared vulnerability without knowing names. That experience lingers, making solitude less stark. A sense of connection carries forward, even when walking alone. Midday approaches. Hunger arrives as a hollow warmth rather than pain. You calculate how far you can go before needing food. This habit, familiar and comforting, gives shape to the afternoon. You rest briefly near a low stone wall, warmed by the sun. Eyes closed, you let the heat soak in. The pause feels earned. You do not rush it. People of this time viewed sleep not as luxury but necessity, something to manage rather than indulge. Nights were expected to sustain, not fully restore. That expectation shaped architecture and habit. The inn embodied it, survival with company rather than comfort. Endurance became normalized. Removed from its walls, this lesson is clear. Straw and smoke feel less like hardship, more like instruction. You rise and continue, warmth lingering even as the stone fades behind you. The road curves gently, revealing a new stretch. You adjust your pack. These checks are second nature. Afternoon passes, clouds gather slowly. Light softens, hinting at another evening. You observe without concern. Clouds signal change, not danger. You think ahead to tonight's rest, another inn, a small shelter, or something improvised. You wait to see what the land offers. Experience has taught you patience. Nightfall no longer provokes anxiety. You know how to meet the night. You know how to lie down without fear. You know how to wake without panic. These abilities were earned in shared spaces where sleep arrived slowly and remained light. A bird suddenly lifts from the grass ahead, startling you. Your heart leaps, then settles. You smile at yourself. Awareness lingers, but it no longer controls you. Balance has been found. As the road stretches on, you reflect on how little of this would ever be recorded. Nights in inns rarely made it into chronicles unless trouble arose. Yet they shaped countless journeys. They formed an unseen framework that allowed travel across distances that might otherwise have been impossible. You carry that understanding with you now. Each step rests on invisible structures, roads maintained by unseen hands, shelters kept by people whose names you will never know, nights shared that briefly knit strangers into communities. The sun dips behind the clouds, cooling the air. You draw your cloak closer, feeling its familiar weight. Evening approaches again, but this time you greet it with readiness rather than apprehension. You move forward, steady and observant, letting the lessons of rest guide your pace. Sleep no longer feels like something to chase. It arrives when you are prepared. As light shifts and the road stretches ahead, you know that when night comes, you will meet it calmly, informed by every shared breath and restless moment before. Evening returns with a surprising familiarity. The light thins, colors soften, and the road ahead loses sharp definition, becoming more suggestive than certain. You recognize these signs instinctively. Your body responds before your mind, slowing your pace while sharpening attention. Fatigue returns in a quiet way, settling in your calves and lower back. A gentle insistence, not a demand. You accept it as part of the rhythm. Night will come whether you rush or not. Preparation matters more than speed. Scanning the land carefully, you notice a line of trees offering shelter from wind and a shallow dip suggesting drainage if rain falls. Farther ahead, a faint thread of smoke rises into the cooling air. That detail draws your attention. Smoke at this hour usually means people, and people often mean shelter. As you approach, the shape of a building becomes clear. Low, sturdy, familiar in proportion. Perhaps another inn, smaller than the last, or a local hall used by travelers and residents alike. Its position on the narrowing road seems to invite pause. Your shoulders relax, not in relief, exactly, but in recognition. You know how this works now. Approach calmly, observe before committing, and let the space reveal itself. You slow to a measured walk, giving yourself time to read the details. The ground near the entrance is worn smooth by countless feet. A hitching post stands nearby, scarred and splintered. Someone has been here recently. Light leaks from beneath the closed door. Warmth waits beyond. You pause at a short distance, listening. Voices drift faintly, few in number. A low murmur, restrained laughter, the clink of a cup. This place is active but not crowded. That knowledge steadies your nerves. Approaching another shared sleeping space no longer brings uncertainty. You have learned the unspoken rules. How to stand, how to wait, how to enter without demanding. That knowledge feels like armor, light, but effective. You step forward and knock once, firm but not loud. The sound echoes, then fades. Moments pass and the door opens. The face that appears studies you quickly, not unkindly, just thoroughly. They take in your posture, your pack, your expression. You meet their gaze without challenge. Fatigue shows, but so does capability. That balance matters. You request rest. No story, no explanation. The words feel familiar now, practiced without seeming rehearsed. The person nods and steps aside, holding the door open. Warm air spills out, carrying the scent of smoke and cooked grain. Your body responds immediately, leaning toward it before you consciously move. You step inside, letting the day loosen its grip once more. The room is modest, smaller than the inn you remember from earlier nights. A few people sit near the fire, others are settling along the walls. Space exists, but not abundance. You take in the layout, choosing a spot that does not draw attention. Payment is handled quietly. Coins change hands. A nod seals the agreement. You are assigned a place near the wall again. Straw is spread thinly, a blanket folded nearby. The familiarity comforts more than luxury ever could. As you settle, you notice your reaction has changed. There is no hesitation, no internal negotiation. You know what to expect, how to lie down, arrange your things, make yourself small without feeling diminished. Food comes soon after, simple, warm, shared. You accept it with quiet gratitude. Eating among strangers feels ordinary now. You listen without searching, absorbing fragments of conversation, whether coming in from the west, a market day delayed. Practical exchanges, absorbed effortlessly. Evening deepens. The fire becomes the focal point. People draw closer, arranging themselves for warmth. You welcome the heat on your shins, hands relaxing as circulation improves. The room quiets gradually, voices lower, movement slows. The day drains from everyone at a similar pace. You sense this shared descent into rest, the rhythm of a group breathing together before sleep. You lie down when it feels right, not when others do. Timing has grown sharper. You spread the blanket and settle into the straw, adjusting until pressure eases from your hips and shoulders. The position feels natural. Others do the same around you. Shoes are placed within reach, packs tucked close. Whispered words pass between companions, then silence forms, not complete, but sufficient. As you close your eyes, you reflect on the lessons of sleep. Inns teach rest among noise, smaller shelters teach it among quiet. Both require adaptation, neither promises comfort, but both deliver continuity. Your breathing slows. The fire crackles softly. Someone shifts nearby, then settles again. The room holds steady. Sleep comes without resistance, reliable, though not deep. You float into it easily, carried by the knowledge that you know how to wake, adjust, and continue. The night stretches ahead, familiar and manageable. You do not fear it. You meet it with practiced calm. Darkness settles outside, gentle and unobtrusive. The night drapes over the room like a blanket drawn slowly upward. The fire dims to a steady glow, shadows stretching along the walls, softening edges. You feel the shift more than see it. Muscles release tension held since midday. Breathing deepens naturally. This is not forced rest, but a practiced surrender. You have learned the rhythm of nights shaped by movement around you. Others settle into sleep with minimal ceremony. A cloak pulled higher, a throat cleared softly. A pair of boots is nudged against the wall to avoid being kicked in the dark. These minor movements ripple across the room, then fade. Each person settles into the shared stillness. You lie on your side, knees slightly drawn in, conserving warmth. The straw beneath compresses and holds, forming a shallow hollow shaped to your body. It is not soft, but it is reliable. That predictability feels like kindness after a long day. The air carries faint notes of smoke and cooked grain, layered with the familiar scent of resting bodies. It is not unpleasant. It signals continuity. This room has seen many nights like this, and it will see many more. You are passing through, but the pattern remains. A low sound drifts from nearby, a half-formed word, a sigh. It barely registers. Your senses have learned to filter without effort. What once seemed intrusive now feels natural, like wind or distant water. Sleep arrives in shallow waves. You drift, surface, drift again. Images appear without order, the road stretching forward, a fire that never fades, faces without names. None demand attention. You let each pass. At some point you wake slightly. The fire has shifted. Someone has added wood. Warmth spreads briefly across your legs, then eases into a gentle heat. You do not open your eyes. You accept it and sink back into rest. The building creaks faintly as it adjusts to the cooling air outside. Wood contracts, a beam settles. The sound is brief, unremarkable, carrying age, not threat. Structures like this move as naturally as bodies. Your breathing slows further. Inhale. Exhale. Each cycle feels complete. You are not watching the clock. Time loosens its grip. There is a belief that sleeping lightly keeps a traveler safe, that full surrender invites danger. Here, you realize balance matters more than rules. You rest deeply enough to recover, lightly enough to wake if necessary. That balance is learned, not taught. A hand brushes your sleeve as someone shifts. Accidental and fleeting. You do not tense. You adjust slightly, making space without thought. Even in rest, bodies negotiate. The room grows cooler as night progresses. You feel it along your cheek, then your hands. You draw the blanket higher and breathe into the pocket of warmth you create. This small skill feels unexpectedly empowering. Outside, wind moves through trees, steady and distant. Perhaps an animal passes. The sound filters through walls, reminding you that shelter is a boundary, not separation. You wake again, not from sound or cold, but from a sense of completion. Your body has reached a deeper rest than the previous night. You recognize it, subtle, unmistakable. You are no longer chasing sleep, you are holding it. Dreams slow, less fragmented. You walk familiar roads effortlessly, sit beside fires without moving closer. These dreams cradle you rather than pull you awake. Eventually, a soft light forms at the edge of awareness. Not dawn yet, but the idea. Your body notices before your eyes do. Hormones shift. Sleep thins, preparing to release. You remain still. No rush. The road waits. It always has. A quiet stir near the fire marks the first wakeful movement. Someone sits carefully, instinctively avoiding disturbance. You open your eyes briefly, just to orient. Pale gray light fills the room. Shapes are gentle, faces relaxed. You close your eyes again, savoring the last rest. Your body feels anchored, heavier in a good way. Previous aches are muted or gone. That absence is meaningful. It signals recovery. You stretch a foot, testing space around you. No resistance, no sharp pain. A faint smile appears, unseen. As light grows, others wake slowly, deliberately. No one speaks loudly. Morning arrives as quietly as night did. You breathe deeply, filling lungs with cool, smoky air. You feel ready, not eager, not reluctant, simply prepared. You sit up without strain. Joints respond smoothly. Straw releases without complaint. You fold your blanket neatly, returning it to its place. This small act feels like closure. The night has done its work. You rise into the morning with earned steadiness. Light now reveals the quiet aftermath. Folded blankets, gathered packs, soft faces. The night has passed cleanly, and that brings quiet satisfaction. You pause before standing fully, letting feet press into the floor. Balance is easy. No sharp back pain, no knee protest. This is not luck. It is the result of learning to rest without demanding from the night. Others move with the same calm. Morning needs coordination, not volume. Everyone knows their path, their time before the road calls again. You gather belongings slowly, checking each by feel, pack strap, pouch, cloak. This ritual grounds you, less about fear, more about order. Near the fire, someone stirs embers and warms a small pot. The scent rises, faint but encouraging. Warm water, perhaps thickened with yesterday's grains. Morning food is not meant to satisfy fully, but to awaken the body gently. You accept a bowl, hands wrapped around it for warmth. The first sip spreads heat through your chest, easing the last stiffness. You drink slowly, aware this quiet moment prepares, rather than indulges. Conversation begins, practical, road conditions, weather forecasts. Exchanges are brief, efficient, useful. You listen, filing information for later. As you finish, movement among others feels natural. No hesitation, no awkwardness. Shared nights teach how to exist in communal spaces. You step around someone stretching. You wait patiently when space narrows. Movement flows smoother for everyone. The night's watcher meets your eyes and nods. Not farewell, but acknowledgement. Shared shelter marks the moment. Outside, the morning air is cool and clear. The sky pale blue with thin clouds. Light feels clean on your face. You inhale deeply, clearing smoke from your lungs. The world is already in motion. A cart rattles at a distance. Someone calls to an animal. Doors creak open and closed. The day moves forward, indifferent to whether travelers are ready. You pause just long enough to adjust your pack and settle your cloak. Ahead, the road stretches familiar and open. There's no need to fill the silence with thought. Walking will do that for you. As you start moving again, you notice how the memory of the inn has shifted. It no longer feels like a hardship endured. It has become a reference point, a measure of how much you can handle and how you respond when comfort is scarce. You reflect on how many people of this time lived lives shaped by nights like that, not as rare experiences, but as routine. Sleep was shared, privacy scarce, rest fragmented. Yet life continued. Trade moved. Pilgrimages went on. Life advanced, one night at a time. This perspective changes something within you. You stop measuring rest against an ideal and instead ask, did I wake capable? Did I recover enough to move forward? That feels more honest. Your pace settles. Each step aligns naturally with the ground beneath you. You navigate small dips and ruts without conscious thought. Awareness is broad but relaxed. This is the state the nights have been preparing you for. You pass a familiar bend and recognize it from earlier journeys. That recognition brings comfort. Landmarks matter. They anchor memory and expectation. As morning unfolds, warmth returns gradually. You loosen your cloak and let sunlight touch your shoulders. The shift between night and day feels less dramatic now. You know both. You have learned to move between them. Hunger will return. Fatigue will follow. Another night will require negotiation. None of it feels threatening. It feels cyclical, predictable, manageable. You realize the inn was more than a place to sleep. It was a classroom. It taught you how to listen without reacting, rest without surrendering, and share space without resentment. Those lessons accompany you now. Your thoughts grow quieter, focused, not empty. You think about distance practically, water sources, and shelter before dusk. The future narrows to essentials. There's a quiet confidence in this simplification. Complexity fades when survival is straightforward. Move, rest, eat, repeat. The road asks nothing more. You continue steadily, carrying the memory of shared breath and firelight, not as nostalgia, but as knowledge, embedded in posture and pace rather than words. The day opens fully, and you step into it without hesitation. By midday, the morning feels complete. You settle into the day as carefully as you once settled into the shared sleeping space. Your body moves with confidence, guided by habit rather than effort. The road is less an obstacle, more a partner, offering resistance only where attention is needed. You pass stretches of open land where the sky seems larger than before. Light falls evenly, warming your shoulders and loosening the last tension in your neck. You roll your head gently as you walk, easing stiffness before it sets. These small acts have become automatic. Hours pass, and your focus shifts from the night to what lies ahead, not in grand plans, but in practical steps. The next place to drink, the next spot to rest, the next shelter before darkness returns. This mindset feels efficient and calming, leaving little room for worry. You notice how often you watch the ground now, scanning texture and color. Dry dirt shifts to packed gravel, a darker patch hints at moisture. These details guide your steps. Nights spent waking lightly have taught you to read terrain without staring. There is quiet satisfaction in realizing how much you've learned, not through instruction, but through repetition. The inn crowded and noisy, forced awareness. The smaller shelter taught trust and acceptance. Together, they shaped a grounded way of moving through the world. You pause briefly at a roadside marker, a worn stone half buried in the earth. It marks a boundary, perhaps between fields or jurisdictions. You rest your hand on it. Countless travelers have done the same, pausing before continuing. Moving on, you encounter another traveler keeping a similar pace. For a while, you share the road in silence, companionable without engagement. Eventually, one of you falls behind. Separation happens naturally. You reflect on how shared nights create temporary bonds without obligation. Those connections matter in the moment, then dissolve. It's freeing to know meaning exists without duty. The sun shifts and hunger returns, not urgent, just present. You take stock. A small piece of bread remains, saved without thought. You eat it slowly, savoring each bite. It steadies you. Clouds gather, filtering light, softening shadows, cooling the air. You welcome the change. Constant brightness can be as tiring as cold. Balance matters. Nights shape days for countless people. Sleep didn't divide them neatly, it blended time together. Fatigue carried over. Rest accumulated gradually. Days were shaped by nights, not the reverse. This understanding changes self-judgment. Endless energy isn't expected. You accept fluctuations. Some hours feel light, others heavy. Neither defines you, they simply inform your pace. You climb a small rise, pausing at the top to look back. The road curves gently, the inn far behind, its distance both physical and symbolic. Ahead, fields and trees patch the landscape. You scan for signs of life, smoke, movement, fences, planning for the evening. You don't commit yet, you observe. Your body signals the need for a pause, not sleep, but rest. You find shade beneath a tree, sliding your pack off your shoulders. Relief is immediate. Legs stretch, eyes close briefly. The ground is firm but forgiving, grass cushioning lightly. This rest refreshes without disengagement. You remain alert to birds, wind, and distant movement, familiar, non-threatening. You reflect on the innkeeper, how they balanced warmth with caution. You realize you now monitor your own energy similarly. Self-awareness feels valuable. When ready, you rise, not driven by impatience. The road welcomes you back. Your stride returns effortlessly. Afternoon light shifts to gold, air cooling slightly, shadows lengthening. Evening preparation begins quietly within you. You check your water and glance for shelter more often. Your pace slows slightly, conserving energy for the choices ahead. The thought of sleeping in another inn no longer feels new, it carries familiarity. You know what awaits: noise, shared air, limited comfort. You also know what it offers: warmth, witnesses, continuity. That understanding removes uncertainty. Scholars debate whether medieval inns fostered true community or simply tolerated proximity. Walking now, you sense the answer depends on the traveler. For you, these nights created a sense of belonging that required no permanence. That feels like community, even if brief. As the road bends, a settlement appears in the distance. It is far enough that you can decide how to approach it. You slow, letting the moment linger. There is no rush. The day has given all it can. The night will set its own terms. You feel ready to engage with it calmly. With measured steps and a composed mind, you continue, carrying the quiet confidence earned through shared rest and patient endurance. As afternoon leans toward evening, you notice how instinctive your preparation for night has become. There is no tension, no anxious scanning, just a focused narrowing of attention. The land offers cues and you listen. The settlement becomes clearer as you approach. Modest buildings cluster together rather than forming a town. Rooflines sit low against the sky, and thin strands of smoke drift sideways in the breeze. You note the detail without overthinking. Wind direction will matter later. Your steps slow as the road curves. You avoid rushing. Arriving too quickly feels abrupt, too late feels desperate. Timing is a subtle skill you continue to refine. Passing fields where the day's work is finishing, you see tools gathered and animals guided back to shelter. Voices carry softly, relaxed yet purposeful. Evening routines are underway. You feel less like an interruption, more part of the expected rhythm. At the settlement's edge, you pause briefly, habit, not hesitation. Adjusting your pack, straightening your posture, you signal readiness rather than need. How you arrive matters almost as much as where. You approach a building accustomed to travelers. The ground near the entrance is worn, walls show repeated repair. Steady light glows from within, indicating a controlled fire. These details reassure you. Before you reach the door, it opens. Someone steps out, neutral expression, assessing. You meet their gaze calmly. Silence feels natural, part of the negotiation. You ask for a place to rest, words unburdened by expectation, prepared for yes or no. The response is a simple nod. The door stays open. Warmth spills outward, carrying familiar scents, smoke, food, people. Your shoulders ease as you step inside. The interior resembles places you have known, yet no two are identical. The fire sits slightly off-center, benches line one wall, straw covers another. Travelers settle around, some finishing their evening meal near the hearth. You read the room quietly, where to sit, where not to, how to place yourself without drawing attention. Payment is brief. Coins change hands. A short exchange confirms what is offered. A spot on the floor, a blanket if available, maybe food. You accept without negotiation. Experience has taught you that acceptance smooths the evening. At your assigned spot, you lower yourself naturally. Spreading the straw, testing it by hand, dry enough. You place your pack within reach and sit. Fatigue settles in more deeply than before, but manageable. You are ready to stop moving, not drained. Food arrives shortly, simple portions from a shared pot. You warm your hands, then eat steadily. Conversation around you is practical. Whether turning colder, a road delay ahead. You listen quietly. Listening has become a reliable skill. As evening deepens, the room quiets. People move closer to the fire. The day recedes. You sense the familiar transition toward rest. Lying down when it feels right, you arrange your blanket, settling into a position your body knows is sleep-ready. Others do the same. Shoes off, packs close, a few quiet words exchanged. Then stillness. The moment carries little anxiety. The first night demanded adaptation. This one feels routine, understood. Understanding brings calm. Breathing slows, the fire crackles softly. Someone coughs, then settles again. The sounds form a steady background that supports rest. Sleep comes gradually, folding over you rather than pulling you under. You drift, aware but unconcerned. Balance feels familiar. In half-dreams, you move along endless roads without effort, stopping and starting naturally, resting without fear. These dreams reflect learning more than longing. You wake briefly as the fire is tended, warmth brushing your legs before fading. You pull the blanket higher without opening your eyes. Your body adapts automatically. Night passes in segments, stitched by awareness and release. Each interruption feels smaller than the last. As the deepest night arrives, the room cools. You draw inward, conserving warmth. Your breath creates a small pocket of heat beneath the blanket. You rest within it, steady and calm. Thoughts drift to travelers before you. Endurance as skill, rest as shared knowledge. The reflection fades as sleep deepens. Your body rests with confidence, knowing what to expect. When light begins to filter in, it is gentle, not intrusive. You remain still, savoring the last moments of night. Morning arrives seamlessly. Eyes open slowly. The room is pale and quiet, others still sleep. You breathe, ready, not eager, not reluctant, simply prepared. The night has passed, and you are rested. Light seeps gradually, brushing walls, faces, and shadowed corners. You wake without surprise, aligned with the shift. Breathing surrounds you, quieter than the inn, yet steady. Someone shifts, straw sighs softly. Another exhales long and unguarded. Small sounds confirm what you already sense. The night passed without incident. You sit up slowly, noting how your body responds. There's stiffness, yes, but it's mild and manageable. Your back stretches without protest. Your legs feel solid beneath you. This tells you something important. The pattern works. Shared rest, even when imperfect, sustains those around you. Others wake gradually. No one rushes. Morning unfolds here quietly, with a mutual understanding. Shoes are gathered. Hands move automatically, repeating rituals honed through years of travel. You follow the rhythm, touching each item you carry, confirming its presence. The act grounds you, replacing worry with habit. The night taught trust in preparation. A small pot warms near the fire. The flame is modest, controlled, just enough to bring life back into the room. A thin, reassuring scent rises, warm water, perhaps with a trace of grain from the night before. It will awaken your body gently, not weigh it down. You accept a bowl when offered. Nodding in thanks, the heat seeps into your palms, easing the last chill from sleep. You sip slowly, letting warmth spread inward. Conversation hasn't started yet. Words arrive only after the body consents to wake. As light strengthens, the room reveals itself more clearly. Marks on the walls, repairs over repairs. This place has been shaped by countless nights like the one you just spent. Travelers arrive weary, leave capable, and make room for the next. There's a quiet respect in how people move around one another. You wait without impatience when space narrows. You step aside instinctively when someone stretches. These behaviors now feel natural. Shared rest has taught you how to coexist without friction. Near the door, someone speaks softly about the road ahead. A section has grown muddy. A stream farther on runs higher than usual. The information is practical, not dramatic. Morning values knowledge over story. You listen and adjust expectations. Perhaps you'll slow later. Perhaps you'll seek higher ground. The night trained you to remain flexible. Plans exist to be shaped by circumstance. Finishing your bowl, you rinse it with a small splash of water and set it aside. The gesture is respectful, though expected by none. Courtesy here is quiet and mutual. You stand fully and feel the room release you. The straw no longer pulls at your clothing. The floor is solid beneath your feet. Rolling your shoulders once more, you slip your pack into place. Its weight settles comfortably, familiar rather than burdensome. As you move toward the door, the person who welcomed you the night before meets your eyes and nods. No words pass between you. None are needed. Shelter was given. Shelter was used. The exchange is complete. Outside, the air greets you with cool clarity. The sky is pale, touched with early light. Clouds drift slowly, thin enough to promise brightness later. You inhale deeply, letting the air clear your lungs. You pause just beyond the threshold, orienting yourself. The road lies ahead, quiet and open. There is no urgency to fill the silence. The day will speak soon enough. As you begin walking, this morning feels different from the one after the inn. There's less noise echoing in your mind, less residue from the night. The smaller shelter offered steadier rest, and your body reflects that. You think briefly about how inns shaped medieval travel. Inns were not destinations. They were hinges, allowing movement to continue, making distance possible. Without them, roads would be shorter, journeys rarer, connections thinner. Understanding this gives you a broader sense of context. You are part of a long chain of movement, supported by structures designed not for comfort, but for continuity. That continuity carries quiet power. The road curves gently past fields and low hedges. Morning activity begins. Animals are guided out. Tools are lifted and set down. Life resumes its steady rhythm. You move among it without disruption. Your stride settles. Breath and movement align. This alignment is earned. Nights spent learning how to rest without abandoning awareness. A familiar marker passes, recognized from an earlier journey. Recognition brings comfort. It anchors memory, confirms direction. You smile faintly, then continue. As morning deepens, warmth returns gradually. You loosen your cloak, letting sunlight touch your shoulders. The contrast between night and day no longer feels dramatic. It feels expected. Hunger will come. Fatigue will follow. Another night will require negotiation. None of this is daunting. You've learned to move through these cycles without resisting them. A quiet realization emerges. The inn taught endurance in noise and proximity. The smaller shelter taught acceptance of quiet without guarding it. Both reshaped how you approach rest. Sleep is no longer something you chase. It's something you prepare for and allow. That shift changes everything. The road opens ahead. You feel steady and capable, not invincible, just prepared. Prepared to walk, prepared to pause, prepared to share space. The world stretches outward, full of roads and nights yet to come. You move with calm confidence, carrying lessons learned in firelight and straw, in shared breath and patient endurance. You understand now what medieval travelers knew without words. Rest is not comfort, it is continuation. The day carries you forward with calm persistence. Steps no longer counted, distance no longer measured precisely. The road exists and you move along it. That is enough. Your body knows what is required. Your mind no longer interferes. Light settles fully across the land. Soft, confident. Air cool and clean, with faint sense of earth and leaves. Balance comes not from strength but from rhythm. Movement, pause, movement again. Familiar, almost comforting. Walking, you reflect on the change since that first night. Not in the world, but in how you meet it. Noise that once demanded attention now fades. Shared spaces that once felt intrusive now feel functional. You've learned presence without overwhelm. Thoughts drift unburdened. Hunger acknowledged. Fatigue responded to early. You no longer push until something breaks. Adjustment, the quiet skill taught by travelers of old. Memory of the inn returns softly. Crowded room. Uneven warmth. Layered breathing in the dark. What once felt uncomfortable now instructs. People endured not through isolation, but through proximity, not through perfect rest, but through shared endurance. Inns did not offer escape, they offered continuity. Roads connected because inns existed. Journeys succeeded because people accepted imperfect rest. This realization settles quietly as the road bends ahead. Closure is felt, not because the journey ends, but because the lesson is learned. You know how to sleep on straw. You know how to wake among strangers. You know how to return to the road without resentment. The day stretches onward. You slow slightly, not from fatigue but from awareness. No rush is needed. The rhythm you carry will sustain you. Another night will come. Another shelter will present itself. For now you walk. The world feels steady beneath your feet. The sky opens above. Breath moves easily in your chest. Rest is no longer pursued. It is carried, built from experience rather than comfort. The road continues, patient and unchanged. You move forward with it, confident in meeting whatever night arrives next. Gradually, without effort, thoughts soften. The road blurs slightly. The air warms. Your body remembers how to slow, how to release attention without losing awareness. The memory of flickering firelight lingers softly, then fades away. Footsteps grow quieter until they disappear. You are no longer moving. You are resting. Images thin, and sensations narrow to warmth and gentle weight. Your breath slows, steady and even. The world feels safe, held at a comfortable distance. You imagine lying down again, not on straw this time, but on something softer, quieter. The lessons remain, but the effort is gone. You no longer need to watch or prepare. The night is gentle here. Your shoulders release fully, your jaw relaxes, and each breath deepens. Every exhale carries away the last traces of tension. You feel supported, unhurried, whole. Nothing remains to decide or plan. Only rest. Let the road fade. Let the images dim. Let the fire fade gently in your memory. You are safe. You are warm. You have walked far enough for today. Sleep comes easily now, not as a reward, but as a permission. As you drift into it, embraced by calm and quiet understanding, the world settles with you. Sweet dreams.